My name is Melinda. I'm turning 51 this year. Today, I officially became a single person after divorcing my husband, Mark. We were married for 27 years. I never imagined I would go through a divorce so late in life. But I don't regret it, because having a husband like Mark was worse. Let me tell you my story today. I got married at 26 and gave birth to a son the following year. When I was 48 and got a job, my only son left home and I was living alone with my husband. Both my husband and I were full-time employees, so our incomes were sufficient. So I was thinking, now we just need to save for retirement and enjoy our remaining years, imagining a joyful retirement ahead, my heart dancing with anticipation. But suddenly, the unexpected happened.
Melinda, my mother collapsed.
A call from my husband came while I was having lunch at work. My mother-in-law lived just a few minutes' walk from our house. She was usually an active person, with many friends and acquaintances, and she treated me, her daughter-in-law, very well. She always boasted about her good health, proudly claiming she hadn't caught a cold in years. Why did something like this happen to her? I immediately headed to the hospital with my husband to hear the doctor's assessment of her condition.
Your mother has had a stroke. Fortunately, because the time from onset to transport was short, she survived. However,
the doctor hesitated as he told us the reality.
I think it is very likely that she will be paralyzed in some way in the future and will need nursing care.
That day, when we returned home, my husband and I discussed my mother-in-law's future. My husband spoke first.
Melinda, I'm counting on you. Please, take care of my mother.
He pleaded with me fervently, almost kneeling before me. Of course, I couldn't give an immediate answer. I knew well that caregiving is not as easy as it sounds, while also working. Because my own deceased mother also nursed a sick person at home in a similar manner. When my father passed away, my mother even said, "I feel relieved rather than sad." Caregiving is indeed that challenging. But, despite my confusion, my husband continues to plead with me.
My mother would be happier if you, as a woman, took care of her rather than me. This is something I can't do.
What my husband said was reasonable. Indeed, my mother-in-law is a woman, so she might resist being taken care of by her son. Moreover, relying solely on external helpers would be too costly. There was only one option left. I understand. Then I'll take care of your mother. My husband took my hand, crying tears of gratitude, saying,
Thank you, thank you.
And so I quit my job to take care of my mother-in-law. When my mother-in-law was discharged from the hospital, she was left with paralysis in her limbs and a mild speech impediment, making it difficult for her to go to the bathroom or eat on her own. "I'm sorry, Melinda, it's all because of me." My mother-in-law always seemed apologetic, but I was happy to be able to help her. During my busiest periods, my mother-in-law willingly took care of my son and genuinely cherished him. Thanks to her, my son still adores his grandmother. I believe my son's kindness and sociability are greatly influenced by his grandmother. Mother-in-law, please don't hold back from now on. I'm helping you because I want to. With those words, my mother-in-law looked genuinely happy. I felt that caregiving was an exchange of hearts. We laughed and enjoyed each other's company every day, and I sometimes thought that a life of caregiving was not so bad. However, at the same time, my husband gradually started acting strangely.
Hey, Melinda, are you really taking care of her? She's my mother, you know. What's wrong with this food? Aren't you being too lazy, even though you're always at home? You wouldn't understand the hardships of a working person, would you?
He began saying things like that. My husband had always been rather quiet and gentle in tone. Both my mother-in-law and I couldn't hide our surprise at his sudden change in behavior. But my mother-in-law fiercely objected to his words. "Why would you say such things to Melinda?" She scolded him in my place. My husband was naturally a bit ashamed to be scolded by his mother, but after a few days he returned to his old self. Those days continued. Eventually, my husband said,
"We can manage with $500 for living expenses from now on. Since you're always at home, if it's not enough, do some side jobs and figure it out yourself."
something like that. The reasoning behind the $500 was that my husband's pocket money was also $500, so it seemed fair for me to have the same. Reluctantly, when I tried to dip into the savings I had from when I was working, my mother-in-law said, "Melinda, please use my secret savings. Don't tell that child about it." She entrusted me with a bank book containing my father-in-law's inheritance. I declined such a thing out of guilt. "Please keep your savings for the future. That would be best." I stubbornly refused to accept it. My mother-in-law had always been on my side. She watched over me and cared for me as if she were my real mother. It was on a winter day, the third year of caregiving for her, that my mother-in-law passed away suffering from pneumonia. During the funeral, I couldn't stop crying more than my husband because I felt lonely being separated from my mother-in-law. Since my husband is an only child, there weren't any major disputes over inheritance, and once everything was settled, we were supposed to return to our usual daily life. However, as soon as my mother-in-law passed away, my husband suddenly said,
"When are you going to start working?"
and directed a cold gaze at me. "What do you mean, when? What are you talking about?"
"How long are you going to be unemployed and depend on me? I don't intend to support you."
Are these words appropriate for a wife who devoted herself to caregiving for his mother to the best of her ability? I sacrificed my job and a considerable amount of my freedom to dedicate to caregiving. Wait a minute. I didn't quit my job because I wanted to. Didn't I quit to take care of her?
Hey, are you blaming your unemployment on my mother?
It's like the conversation isn't even connecting. Can I really endure being constantly told off by such a husband? With that in mind, I desperately tried to find a job. However, it's not easy for a woman in her 50s with only a bookkeeping qualification to find a job. And then my husband said,
"Don't think about part-time work. That's just being lazy."
So the type of employment I was looking for was full-time or contract employment. That only raised the bar for employment even higher. When I received rejection letters one after another and felt depressed at home, my husband said to me with a sidelong glance,
"Do you really think there are companies out there hiring someone who's been unemployed for so long?"
He said it in a mocking tone. My unemployment was because I was caregiving, right? Why do you have to say something like that to me? I desperately tried to argue back to my husband while holding back tears. But then my husband said something outrageous.
Yeah, more excuses. The world isn't so lenient that you'll get a job just like that. If you plan to keep leeching off me forever, then get out."
He snorted arrogantly as if he were in the right. That day, I couldn't sleep from frustration and misery. I cried all night long. And after crying until my tears dried up, I made up my mind. I should just leave such a husband. From then on, I stopped talking to my husband. To avoid his nagging, I took care of everything perfectly at home while diligently job hunting. One day, about 2 months into this routine, my husband came home seeming irritated or agitated. And then he threw this at me.
"Hey, parasite. How long are you going to stay unemployed? I told you to leave."
His words were sharper and more pointed than usual, but I wasn't about to back down. "Do you understand your own position?"
"Huh?"
My husband sounded dumbfounded for my unexpected counterattack.
What do you mean?"
I said, "Do you understand your position? Can you manage on your own if I leave? What about the mortgage on this house? You've never done any housework before, is that okay? Ever since I quit my job to take care of my husband, I've been paying the mortgage from my savings. Of course, that's because my husband reduced the household expenses to just $500. Over nearly 3 years, I've paid around $40,000 in monthly repayments of $1,300. Even though we used to split the payments, I've been covering them all for the past few years." Do you still think you're in a position to tell me to leave? After I politely explained, my husband immediately became flustered.
No, I contributed money to the household too.
Huh? You think you can say that with just $500? As an adult, have some shame. My husband, who couldn't utter a word in response to my words, seemed to slowly begin to understand the situation.
Oh, wait, isn't there less stuff in the house?
He finally noticed, huh? Men can be so clueless, it's frustrating. You were the one who told me to leave, so I was getting ready. Well, this house is yours and mine, so if you want to live in it, I will charge you a certain amount of money.
Huh? What do you mean?
That's right. I handed my husband the divorce papers swiftly. The part for me was already filled out, and I had signatures from acquaintances as witnesses. All that was left was for my husband to sign and date. What a prepared wife, don't you think?
Oh, wait a minute. Isn't a divorce too sudden?
Sudden? After being unemployed for so long, being called a parasite, and being told to leave? Don't act like you didn't have the intention to divorce. I simply chose to leave after your words that day. So why are you so flustered?
Oh, I didn't mean it that way. I mean,
Oh, really? Then could you tell me what you did mean by it? My husband broke into a cold sweat. Why is he so nervous?
It's just that, I wanted you to get back into the workforce as soon as possible. I was being tough on you. I was trying to toughen you up so you wouldn't just become a stay-at-home wife.
He was trying to sound reasonable. He looked relieved, as if he had come up with a perfect excuse to convince me. But really, who would be fooled by those words? That's what I really thought. And he didn't realize it. He was digging his own grave. Well, I see. Well, thank you for that. Thanks to you, I've been able to live without relying on a foolish husband. I appreciate it. This is also thanks to you. Thank you so much. I said with a smile, and his face sagged even more.
Well, I guess that's good.
The arrogance he had just displayed was gone, replaced with a pathetic expression as he altered between looking at the divorce papers I brought and at me. Wow, I'm really happy. Now I can feel confident about parting ways with you. As I spoke joyfully, his face became even more filled with despair. And as if resigned to his fate, he muttered,
Divorce. Can't you wait? If you leave me now, what will I do?
I couldn't feel even a shred of sympathy for my husband, who seemed on the verge of tears. But I wasn't hurtless either. Shall I just listen to his side of the story for now? Why? Isn't it a relief that the parasite is gone? Then my husband said, as if squeezing the words out,
Actually, I, lost my job.
Yeah, I know. As soon as I responded, my husband looked at me as if he were seeing a ghost.
Huh? You knew? How?
You took my insurance card without permission, didn't you?
Well...
The beginning of this was like this. One day I witnessed my husband taking my insurance card from my wallet. I wondered about it, but by that time I had already stopped talking to my husband, so I thought it might be a good opportunity to leave being under household and get my own insurance. During my job search, I went to inquire about health insurance, but when I went to the corner, it seemed that my husband had already been removed from his workplace insurance.
Please expedite the procedures for health insurance. If you continue like this, you'll end up uninsured.
That's what they told me. I thought I was still covered as a dependent, but did my husband maliciously remove me from it? I thought so, but the situation was a bit different. My husband's company went bankrupt due to financial difficulties. It happened right around the time of his remarks about leaving me. After that, for 2 months, my husband received unemployment benefits and started job hunting just like me. Perhaps he was too confident because he had been in a managerial position at his previous company. He thought he could secretly find another job and return the insurance card without me noticing, thinking everything would be fine. But reality wasn't so forgiving. My husband, lacking qualifications or notable skills at the age of 50, struggled to find a job. His frustration and anxiety only intensified his attacks on me.
I was so worried about the declining performance of my company, so I took it out on you. After the bankruptcy, I didn't know what to do, and finding a new job became so difficult, so I ended up saying even more horrible things to you. I'm truly sorry. But if you leave me now, what am I supposed to do?
However, deep down, I just wanted to become estranged from this husband of mine as soon as possible. All right, you figure it out on your own. I'm not your mother, you know.
But you took care of my mom, so to me you're kind of like a mother too.
What kind of reasoning is that? I feel like his brain is melting from the stress of unemployment. But my husband in front of me showed no sign of joking, making me even more scared. It's not a joke. Sorry, but I've got a job starting next month. It's going to take me an hour to get there, and I need to move. I don't have the luxury of taking care of you. Well then, goodbye. Leaving my husband in a daze, I packed my belongings into a suitcase and left the house. My husband and I divorced afterward. He had been resisting the divorce all along, but it was our son who managed to persuade him.
I've heard the whole story, but it's your own fault, Dad. Stop making a fool of yourself, or Grandma will cry in heaven, so just stop it.
My husband agreed to the divorce because of that one word from our son. I sold the house and paid off the loan. Since I paid more of the loan, I was to get all the remaining cash. It was my mother-in-law who paid most of the mortgage on the house while I was a caregiver, although she didn't tell my husband. That's because my mother-in-law wanted to help me. I hope you'll let me know if there's anything I can do to help. Moved by those words, I confessed that I was struggling with the mortgage payments. In response, my mother-in-law offered to use the money from her bank account to pay off the loan. Of course, to avoid exceeding the annual gift tax limit of $11,000, we adjusted it, and my mother-in-law ended up paying nearly $30,000 in total. So technically, the money left from paying off the loan might also belong to my husband. But my mother-in-law said this. This is a secret between you and me, Melinda. A woman should keep 1 or 2 secrets from her husband. So I've decided to keep this to myself and not tell anyone. Come to think of it, my mother-in-law once told me, keep your savings safe for a rainy day. Maybe she foresaw that this would happen. Or maybe I'm just overthinking things. As for my husband, he spent his meager savings and moved to a cheap apartment. I heard he's doing odd jobs while looking for a job. It's pathetic that he hardly had any savings, even though he only put $500 towards the house. He probably spent it all on gambling to vent his frustration from being unemployed. Thank you. I'm grateful because of you, I said to my son. Then my son started to speak a little awkwardly.
Actually, I received a letter from Grandma just before she passed away. The handwriting was shaky, so I struggled to decipher it. It expressed gratitude towards you, Mom, and it said that if anything happened, I should protect you, Mom. I never imagined that my mother-in-law would give such a letter to her grandson. Come to think of it, she asked me to send letters and postcards a few times, but I never thought to look at the recipient because I thought it would be rude. My mother-in-law really cared about me, didn't she? I couldn't help but shed tears in front of my son. My son laughed with a comforting expression, saying, Hey, why are you suddenly crying? You're such a crybaby, Mom. His face resembled his grandma's, who always listened to my stories with a smile, and I couldn't hold back my tears again.